Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. We have Joe Lamond, the President and CEO of NAMM, joining us. Joe, thanks for sitting down with us today.
Mitch, it's a pleasure to be here.
It is an interesting year, and that has led up to some interesting changes with the NAMM show that normally would be taking place about a month from now as we're filming this video. The NAMM show itself will not be taking place in the physical format that we're used to because of safety concerns and all of that kind of stuff. But you guys have come up with a pretty incredible event that's going to actually expand on that and open it up to a lot more people than would normally attend the physical NAMM show.
Yeah. You would normally cover this, Mitch, and you'd be, scouring 1.6 million square feet of new gear. And we love new gear, right? I'm a drummer. New gear for me is like the thing that just, I can't wait to see what's coming out.
Right.
And so a lot of your viewers know the NAMM show as that, where we go and find all the newest things that we just have to have. How do you replicate that in a digital realm? It's very difficult. I mean, NAMM show has been occurring each year, literally since 1901.
Right.
With the exception. We had the unenviable decision to, have to cancel this show. This was back in the summer now because it takes such a lead time to build it. No one's done that since 1944.
Yeah, I saw that a couple of times during the Depression, right? 32 and 34, and then in World War II. So.
And no one, facing a decision that hasn't really, in 80 years, that was a heavy thing for us, especially since we know that, look, there's also this saying about the NAMM show, which is, without the NAMM show, no piece of gear will ever be finished, because engineers will tinker forever. And so, if you're working for one of these, great companies that we all know, it's like the deadline is this has to be at the NAMM show.
Right,
and so it gets done, right? What is that human tendency? If there's a completion date or a deadline, you'll get it done. So without the show, we couldn't do it. And now I know we couldn't do it. Here we are, end of December, realizing that, everyone was optimistic and we were thinking in the summer, wow, we're going to have some, vaccinations and cures. Well, we sit here now and realize we're in worse shape than ever in Southern California. So in hindsight, it was the easiest decision ever made, the most obvious decision. But the tough part was, then what do we do? How do we still kind of create this vision? Like the NAMM show is a platform. It's a big old stable, reliable platform where the entire global ecosystem comes together to do this, to launch new products. But it's so much more than that. And how do we approximate that was our big challenge. We scratched our heads for a while on that one.
Right. Yeah, I imagine so. And it's a different kind of a thing. It allows for some different things, though. I see this, and we had talked a little bit about this earlier, that it's actually an opportunity, because normally the NAMM show, and maybe we should talk a little bit about what the NAMM show is at its core, for those who don't know, is for retailers and press to see new products from manufacturers. Yeah. But this event that you're planning really opens that up to the general public, to musicians, to artists, to everyone, really.
Yeah, music educators. So the NAMM show itself, it's our industry is different. We're very unique. People who are in music, I think by definition, are very, we're artistic, we're creative, we're congenial, we like each other. We actually, some of the bass players, drummers, singers are always out. We all have our issues, but as an industry and as a group, we really do love each other. Right. And that's what that unifies the music part. So I've often said the NAMM show is like it's a family reunion, and then a trade show breaks out. So there's that business element of it. But at its heart, the NAMM show has been a place where new gear was introduced, where dealers and distributors from around the world could then grab it and take it home to their own markets, to their own communities, and bring this gear and to where ultimately artists and music teachers and students then make all this beautiful music with it. So that's generally what it had been known for. It's evolved. A trade show has evolved. I'm not even sure what a trade show is these days, and I sure don't think NAMM is one. It's actually part trade show. It's also part concerts. There's more music at the NAMM show, than you could possibly take in the time it's there. Every night is filled with parties and concerts with, and then it's a campus. It's an educational campus to where, every element, wherever you find yourself in this musical ecosystem as an artist, as an engineer, as a producer, as an installer of or a touring sound, or production manager, no matter where you find yourself in this, you're always trying to be better. You're always trying to improve so that the industry can move forward and that we can move music forward. So it's part campus and part education. So when we created this now Believe in Music Week, first and foremost, I didn't want to call it the NAMM show, the virtual NAMM show, because it's not.
Right.
Mitch, walking into the NAMM show is the NAMM show.
Right.
Walking onto this, beautiful, gleaming city of Oz where, it's just, you cannot replicate that digitally. So the first thing we had to decide was it's not a virtual NAMM show, but it can replicate the core of that, which is three elements to me. New products. So all the Sweetwater viewers can now see what you guys see. You'll be able to see the new products that are launched for 2021. The marketplace will be robust. You'll be able to interact with companies. You'll be able to, it's actually kind of a big sharing opportunity for knowledge. Not only do we as dealers or others get to see the new product, but don't forget, everybody sees what everyone else is doing, and we all learn from each other and we measure each other. There's a real competition to, how can this product do the, it really inspires everyone just by seeing all that. And now your viewers will be able to see that. Two is the education. I mean, to me, again, no matter what part of this you find yourself in, from music education on to mixing, the next Dave Matthews tour, you're always trying to improve. And so there's educational tracks for every element of this industry. It's all free. At the NAMM show, it would be free anyway, but now it's free for people who couldn't go to the NAMM show before.
Right.
And you can get a glimpse into all these. I mean, we had Phineas doing a session last year at Tech Tracks about how he engineered Billie Eilish's new album, and just stuff like that, inside stuff that's kind of fun. And now people around the world can take advantage of that. And then the third part of this, so, we got Believe in Music, which was marketplace, the education. And the third part was community. How do we create the sense of community that we have at the NAMM show? And that comes from seeing old friends or walking down the hall and seeing, your favorite artist just kind of trying something out in the booth. And hey, there's Stevie Wonder. And it's like, there's that element of surprise and community. And we're going to try and approximate that as much as we can with 2 days of live content programming. Thursday and Friday of NAMM Believe in Music Week. And that's going to be a lot of just us on screen interviewing people. I mean, I'm kicking it off with an interview with Garth Brooks. We're just going to be talking about how did he do all these drive-in concerts this year? What was the motivation for that? Just
Right.
kind of shooting the breeze kind of things with different people that are just the inside story, which would have occurred in the Hilton Ballroom or would have occurred in the hallway of, Hall E or something. So those are the types of things we're going to try and create community with. So new products drives all of us nuts. We just can't wait to see new products. Education, we all want to be better at what we do. And third, this is a community of just artistic, creative people that love to be together. And we're going to try and, to the best of our ability, create that with 2 days of live programming.
Right. So the event takes place starting January 18th.
Yeah.
And it runs for the entire week.
Yeah, I mean, that's NAMM Show Week in general. There's so much education, there's meetings, all kinds of business meetings, occurred before the show even opens, traditionally on a Thursday morning. Well, for us, it's virtually on a Thursday morning. So the lead up is different meetings, marketplace. All the Sweetwater viewers can go into the marketplace and start seeing all the new gear. Thursday morning is where we really kick it off. And that's literally going to start with a conversation with Garth Brooks. Thursday, we're running all night Thursday night because this is going around the world, by the way. We have members in 128 countries.
Right.
And then Friday, we pick up and go to Friday night. So it's actually those, 2 full days of live content that I think most people that are watching this will want to tune in for. I think that's the part that they'll want to really zero in on. That'll be the inside scoop that they may not ever see if you don't get to go to the NAMM show.
Right, right. You mentioned in passing that this is totally free for people to come and tune in and watch everything. Do you have to register? Do you have to have a ticket? Does someone have to get you in with a guest pass? So how does that work?
In NAMM show, the whole thing about what kind of makes the NAMM show special is you have to have a badge, and members invite their staff and their guests. So this is really, to get to a NAMM show, you have to either be a member or, really know a member well enough to get a guest badge. And that's what makes the NAMM show exclusive. And it's also a physical limitation, right? The Anaheim Convention Center, as big as it is, and that whole campus, as big as it is, at 115,000 people a year, we basically are to the walls.
Right.
There's really not a lot of room left. Digital, of course, is unlimited. So we decided to make this free for everybody. And whether that in hindsight was the right thing or wrong thing. Free is better, right? And it goes back to the vision of this whole event. The vision is actually to launch music into 2021. And that's why we talk about free, is that we want as many people involved as possible, because it's inspirational. It's going to lead to a more musical year ahead, which is our vision. NAMM's vision is a world in which every child has access to music education. That's pretty simple. That's what Dad does for a living. What do you do, Dad? We try and make sure every child has access to music education around the world. And that's what kind of these events are for. The downstream impact of a NAMM show is music and all that kind of promotion of music and support of music and education and lifelong music making. So that's really, if you get right down to the roots of what this is, and even this digital event, it's about our vision of a more musical world. So it's easy, register for free. And on the 11th, you get this kind of Willy Wonka link, this kind of golden ticket link on the 11th of January. And then you go in and start creating a little bit of who you are, your profile. In this system. This beautiful system we're using now is actually kind of an AI supported social network. We're creating our own social network. And so on the 11th, you'll go in and start looking around as an attendee, build out your profile a little bit. And that way people are going to start finding you. Gear is going to start being recommended to you. This kind of matchmaking is going to start occurring of who you're going to want to talk to that week of Believe in Music Week. So the 11th is kind of an important date. Get in, register, set up your profile so you can now start becoming part of this little network. And then, of course, the week of the 18th, you're in, it's Oz, Technicolor, Dorothy has landed, and you're going down the road to the Magic Kingdom. So, our world of Disneyland. But the idea that the 11th is a key date, and then, of course, the week of Believe in Music is key. But free, we want to engage music educators, sound engineers, installers, of course, gear lovers and musicians and artists who play, as we all do. We think that this is probably going to be a neat experiment that we won't ever not be able to do again.
Right.
as much as I've spent this whole Christmas holiday, maybe this is a one and done. It's like, nope. I think we're gonna have to do this every year, guys. Sorry.
Right.
I think this is the way the world's going to be going forward. So going forward in 22 on, there will be this great physical NAMM show, and beyond it, be right sitting beside it will be Believe in Music.
So if I understand correctly, what the visitor to the event will see is there's sort of separate areas. There's like a live area where you'll be broadcasting, doing interviews, and other content will be playing as well. Then there's a manufacturer area where they're showing their new products and things. And is there an interactive area, or how does all that work?
Yeah, it's when you land on the page, and you can see all this on the 11th and start mapping it out. The main channel will be broadcasting. It'll follow you around as you go to different pages. You can still watch an interview with Jackson Browne or Diane Warren. You can just follow that along. Other things will be recommended to you on the side. You'll start saying, hey, you should talk to this person, or don't forget to look at this gear. You can go into the marketplace yourself and just find companies, either by sorting by company name or by instrument category or things that you're interested in. Along another tab will be the educational sessions that are running that have been recommended for you based on your profile. Hey, over here now is a session on, rigging lighting in a concert situation. If you're in that field, it'll be recommended you watch that session. So it'll be it'll be for an ADD guy like me, it's perfect. There'll be things happening all over your screen. And as you follow along from one area to the other, the main channel video follows with you. And so I'm kind of thinking about this as if going to the NAMM show from now on, you'll have a twin. Because in my mind, you actually get to be in two places at once. And that's what this platform, I think, is going to be one of the coolest things about it, is you can be in multiple places at once, doing multiple things at once, looking at a class that you wanted to kind of check out while you're looking at some piece of gear that might have even been mentioned in that class, or seeing a little bit of this interview with your favorite engineer or producer that's part of the Believe TV. So I think it's kind of really, it's going to keep you interested, because at any given time, that homepage is taking you places and delivering you very fresh and rich content at the same time.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a couple of days you're going to want to block off on your calendar and say, hey, I'm in front of my computer, or whatever.
And I think that's the biggest challenge. I mean, we've all done it this year, right? We've sat way too long in front of screens. And I personally can't wait to get back to live. I can't wait to get back to concerts, going to a hot, crowded club again and seeing my favorite band. I can't wait to, go to Coachella and see. So I can't wait to get back to physical. And so I don't know how long anyone will sit at a screen. So it's incumbent on us to make it exciting and interesting. The good part about this too is that a lot of these, for example, the educational sessions will be recorded. And so that in the week or 2 or 3 afterwards, I imagine the site will still have heavy traffic of people going back to say, okay, I missed that live, but I can see it recorded. Or I want to follow up with that manufacturer on a piece of gear. We'll really do this. So, there'll be a longer tail on this. So you won't have to see everything in those 2 days of the Thursday and Friday of the week. You'll have some chance to follow up. Because I've done a couple of these kind of seminars where you're there for a couple of days sitting. It's tough. I mean, and if it's really interesting and exciting, then I think, we'll capture people's, but I do encourage them to get up and walk around once in a while, because sitting in front of a screen is not good for us as musicians. We need to be out moving around, I think. So.
Right. Well, that's so awesome. There's going to be a lot of really interesting things there. And one of the cool parts, and you've touched on this several times, for me personally, going to the NAMM show is you see all the gear, but you had talked about the musicians and all the artists, and I always come away so inspired. After that, it's like I come back and I'm in this frenzy of practicing for a period of time afterwards, because there's so much excitement that develops around it.
That's the community, right? That's the sense of community. I tell the story about one of my favorite NAMM moments, and we all have them. And we all have how many NAMM shows have you been to? There's this kind of that whole consecutive, kind of competition here. And I was emailing with Abby at Shure yesterday, and we were discussing, how many shows we've been to. And for 21, do I give everyone a hall pass and say, it still counts that you went? or is this like an asterisk in the Baseball Hall of Fame? I've been to 48 shows in a row, asterisk. Well, I didn't go 21, but we've decided, Abby and I, that it's going to be a hall pass. Everyone gets a free year.
Everyone gets a free attendance.
But that community, and we all have our memories. And one of my favorite memories was towards the end of the day, people start gathering out in the hallways and they're planning their evening events. We're going to dinner here. We're going to see this concert here. And I remember stopping and seeing, like, I don't know, I think my memory's not exact, but I think it was Steve Gadd, Steve Smith, Peter Erskine, might have been Chad Smith, like 4 or 5 of my most favorite drummers in the entire world, all just standing around going, should we go to Morton's, or are we going to go over and see that event? I mean, it was just like, do you guys realize you've been on almost every of my favorite records ever recorded?
Right.
And they're just hanging out, deciding where to go to dinner. And that's one of my favorite NAMM memories. And that's the community and the inspiration that you're talking about. Those are the things that you leave going, I'm part of something really cool. This is really something special that we're a part of. And so that's, part of why I think people, go such great lengths to come to NAMM every year. Mm-hmm. It's those moments, those kind of, one-off, never could occur again kind of moments that happen, so.
Right. So you mentioned, you've been discussing this community aspect. Is there a way for viewers to interact with, say, a manufacturer if they have a question about a piece of gear or they want to know something? I mean, obviously they can come to us here at Sweetwater and we're going to be involved in a lot of these things too, but is there a direct way for them to reach out?
In some ways, Mitch, I mean, you've been the kind of, the lead on that. You really are sorting out, what you really got excited about, and you're sharing that with your viewers. They will have, a lot of access that they'll see some of this through your eyes. There's a chat feature on this site, and I may come to regret that. Everyone can chat with everybody. They can literally try and set up meetings or request meetings with all these wonderful gear makers. There's just a lot of interactivity, and some of the challenges we have to work through is when you're at the NAMM show, we're all there physically in the same time and space. The chat function and the request a meeting function now have to go in, every time zone around the world. So we could literally be chatting with someone in Japan at their time, and at the same time watching something that's being, broadcast from Germany onto the Believe TV, because we are going to have content from around the world. It's really created some challenges about how to think about a 24-hour span around the world.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of interactivity, a lot of chat, people you should meet. You can find, hey, if I really want to always talk to that producer, if they're registered, you just ping them and you can send them a message and they can write you back, and you can arrange to have a side meeting on this platform to tell them about the project you're working on or something. So
Wow.
all those this actually may be more of a connector point in, like I say, our own musical social network than we ever dreamed of. And those were kind of unanticipated outcomes from this too. The sense of community is so interesting. I've been in it all my life. You've been in it all your life. Ironically, today is my 60th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
And I got a card this morning from the oldest living NAMM member. This card moved me so much. He was basically talking about his career. He's almost 102, how excited he was. And I called him. I got on the phone. I called him. I just hung up the phone with him before this, and then I just thought about the community that we have, that shares that. And he's in our oral history. You can look up these people in our oral history right now and hear their life stories. But that is the community. This person at 101, almost 102, reached out on my birthday to say, "Hey, we're all part of this thing together." And I thought, okay, that's the gift. We got to keep giving that back to everyone. There's new people coming up that you and I now need to be that person for. Encourage them, keep them in this. If they're having a bad run, you can do this. It's you can. There's music. There's a place in music for all of us. And I think that's part of the spirit of NAMM, that we all found our tribe. Regardless of what part of it we ended up in, we all found our tribe. People that look like us, that think like us, that talk like us. It's like, yes, I'm here. I belong.
Right.
So,
That's awesome. That's awesome. What a great thing. And happy birthday.
thank you.
So speaking of NAMM and the community and music and all those things, NAMM started, you mentioned 1901. It was kind of a group of piano manufacturers at that time who got together to kind of create an organization or whatever. Tell us a little bit about what NAMM does besides the NAMM show and Now Believe in Music, because that's really kind of the visible tip of the iceberg, if you will. There's a lot that goes on with NAMM.
I think most people realize, even NAMM members think about it as the show, as the trade group that produces shows. I mean, think about any industry, pilots association, teachers, engineers, there's associations for almost every field. And generally they have some sort of conference. It's part of, I think it's a neat way. The actual founding of NAMM goes back to Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt had this idea that, in our society, there'd be things that the government could do great. And then he said there's some things that the private enterprise, the business would do really well, do great as well. He said, but there's this middle ground of things that need to get done. And I'm going to create this kind of nonprofit. They created this nonprofit section in our system. And because it's things that society needs, and private enterprise may not be incented to do it, and government probably wouldn't do it that well. So he created this thing called the nonprofit world, and it became the Red Cross and hospitals and trade groups like NAMM. So you see a lot of them all around that age, 110, 120 years old. It's such an interesting vision that he had for America, that we'd created this middle ground where public benefit was a big deal. Think of zoos and things like that just brought so much public benefit. And that's what NAMM is. And our public benefit is to promote music, right? So our superpower, if you will, is to promote music. And so as an industry, we work on things that are important to us, like endangered woods for, and safe logging and things for guitars. And we work on a lot of business issues, but our primary focus is lobbying for music education, for making sure that in all our education laws, music and arts are valued and funded. And so after the show ends, our model is really simple. It's a big circle. We do trade shows. After paying all the bills, if there's anything left over, hopefully, we take all of that and invest it into promoting music, lobbying for music education, funding programs like a lot of what you guys do, Little Kids Rock, and others that are kind of wonderful seed programs that get people involved in music outside of maybe traditional school. And because we promote music and fund music brain research that said to the parents, you've got to get your kid in music. I mean, how many of us have all heard that the music brain research links music with greater student success? Well, that all happened here. That all came out of this NAMM family funding research at universities around the world saying, we think this is true. Could you prove it for us? And we have. Because of all that, music's more popular. Sweetwater has grown. Your viewership has grown. People are involved in music. And because of that, the companies grow. And because of that, they come back to the NAMM show and sometimes buy a bigger space, or the store is bigger. And that is a circle. Produce trade shows. Take what's left to promote music. Because we promote music, music grows. companies grow, show grows. And that's a circle since 1901. It's a simple business model. But the promoting of music is, a lot of the heart and soul of our industry. Look, Chuck Surak, you don't get a more generous person than that as far as promoting music education. He's on the NAMM Foundation board, the founding board member of the NAMM Foundation, one of its most generous funders. So we're kindred spirits in the fact that we think everyone should have a chance to make music. And that's really what NAMM does year round, around the world, by the way,
Right.
Here in the US and around the world. It's just so interesting to be promoting music in Afghanistan or in China. And at the same time, then the next week going to Capitol Hill and testifying in front of our Congress. It's an interesting role for NAMM to be in, but it's the rightful role. And it's what, Teddy Roosevelt thought about when he thought of this great society, that there'd be this public benefit that we would all work for. So as an industry, 10,000 companies belong to NAMM. None of them could do this probably as well on their own as we could all do together. And that's what NAMM's role is, to collectively work with all the NAMM members to say, we think music education should be funded by our government.
Right.
And that's the role. And because of that, we still, as much as we are struggling with music education in our country in certain areas, for sure, more than others, we still have the best music education system in the world, where on a traditional school year, more than 90% of students will have access to some music and art education. Envy of the world. And
That's awesome.
So it works. We have to stay on it, because the minute you're not there, you're forgotten, and that's why every year we're in Washington, and every year we're in state capitals, because you can never let up for a second. It will be something we will all be doing forever to make sure we're at the table, So.
Right. And here I thought when the show ended, you just took the rest of the year off.
I wish. Maybe there was a day, but
well, you've been doing this for a while. You started in '98 in marketing, and then you became the president in 2000, correct?
Yeah, it's almost
20 years.
Yeah, it's gone fast. That's for sure.
Right.
Although I've been reminded that today's my birthday, then I can now get into Costco in senior hours. So I got that going for me, which is nice.
Yeah. That's awesome.
No, and I've been coming to the NAMM show since 1983.
Wow.
So it's just part of who we are. And again, so I think for your viewers, they're kind of getting an inside scoop of what the NAMM show is a little bit, and why Believe will be, a part of it. And I hope all people will be inspired to someday make the trek to Anaheim and, find a badge somewhere from one of their friends,
Right.
But because it really is a special thing. But, talk a little bit more about the industry and the community and the role NAMM has in it. I would think a lot of your viewers would find that interesting, because otherwise it's just a cover of a magazine, new from NAMM, or something, some of your broadcasts, So this is, and I appreciate the opportunity to even demystify it a little bit here.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
It's a trade group. It's a lobbying group. We produce trade shows. We do great education. It's just such an interesting thing to describe sometimes. What is NAMM?
Right. You guys also have a strong historical component. You mentioned the oral histories, and I've done one of those where you're interviewing people in the industry to preserve that knowledge and what they've done. But you also have a museum, and you have other things that you do on that front as well.
Yeah. The idea of capturing the stories. We have almost probably closing on 4,500 oral history interviews. Wow. It's the largest collection in the world of industry, music at all, interviews. And these are all wonderful interviews with people we know and some we don't. I mean, it's very democratized, in my opinion. We've got some of the, Les Paul, the biggest names in our industry, talking about their life and their career and why they did this or that, inside stories, right? And then you've got a local retailer here in Carlsbad, California, who to me, his story is just as important as anyone else's, right? There's a great part of the interview with Ted McCarty, one of the early Gibson days, and how the humbucker pickup came around. There's just he's telling, it's all, you're in the room hearing the story. Well, they said we've got to, these heavy bodied guitars, they're just feeding back, and he went to the engineering department and said, I don't care what you do. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how long, how much you spend doing it. You've got to get me a pickup to buck this hum.
Right.
And they're all going, it can't be done. It can't be done. Like months later, the engineer comes in and throws it on his desk and said, there's your humbucker.
Right, right.
Now we know why the humbucker pickup is called the humbucker. I mean,
Right.
But to hear that from the person who did it, it's just such an interesting. So those stories are captured. They're all free on the NAMM website. It's interesting. You get on that and start watching some. It recommends a couple others. It recommends a couple others. Next thing you know, it's like 4 hours have gone by. So yeah, the oral history program is maybe, I think, in some ways, the most important thing NAMM has ever done. And we did it too late. We did it 20 years ago, I think, 21 years ago now. We should have been doing it the whole time, but we got it now.
Yeah, right.
It's just such an interesting collection.
Yeah.
And 900 of the people we interviewed, ironically, it's a sad milestone. 900 of them have now passed away over the time. So those are 900 you cannot get. Henry Steinway's interview is now, immortal. It will never,
Right.
It can never be done. And so even protecting these things is such a big responsibility for us, making sure that they're stored around the world in different formats so that if, a plane hits our building here, it's not over, so.
Right, right. That's so awesome. There's so much that NAMM does for music, and we appreciate it so much. And Sweetwater is so proud to be associated and supporting and part of this. And we're, of course, going to be part of the Believe in Music event as well. And we'll be doing some content. And I think you and I might even be having a chat during some of the things there to let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah. We'll see what we find. I'm always curious to see what, what's good, Mitch? What should I be looking at? Right. Well, I need to go home and talk to my wife about. I need this piece of gear.
Right.
Yeah, you're the secret shopper in so many ways. I can't wait to see what you find that you like.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Well, I know you're a busy guy. I don't want to keep you all afternoon. We could keep talking about everything that NAMM does for hours here, but we so appreciate you sitting down with us today.
Yeah. My message to the Sweetwater fans is get out there and register. Come be a part of this, and watch for January 11th when you get in and start setting it all up. And then the week of the 18th, you're in the virtual Believe in Music Week. So yeah, I wouldn't miss it. There's no reason to not have your viewers get involved in this, and it may just trigger something very special that comes out of it.
I can't wait. I think it's going to be a blast. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Mitch.
Great to see you, Joe. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you very soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, take care. And thank you for joining me here. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.